Nobody asked Gen X when things changed, they just started changing. As if all at once, the warm amber glow of the streetlights dimmed, and the neighborhoods grew eerily quiet. Adults, the unsung heroes whose absence left a space no one else could fill, were no longer interchangeable. Responsibility became negotiable, then transferable. Without protest, without dissent or objection, we adapted. For years now, many of us have carried the same unspoken thought. Something truly important was lost, and we're not entirely sure how or when we helped lose it. One defining characteristic of Gen X is that we've never lacked opinions. What we've lacked is a way to convey them without being misunderstood. So here is one answer, perhaps one of many, to a question I've been quietly contemplating for a while now. We lost something we didn't realize was fragile, and we played a part in that. It wasn't out of malice or weakness, but out of drift. We knew our neighbors back then. We grew up in neighborhoods, not just housing. We knew who lived 2 doors down. We knew whose dad worked a night shift. We knew which house to run to if something went wrong, and which houses to avoid. There was tension and friction. There were unwritten rules. There were consequences. There was also a shared reality. Guidance came without fanfare. Responsibility wasn't outsourced. Community wasn't an app or a slogan. In fact, we didn't even call it community. That word came much later, after it started to disappear. To us, it was just normal. A normal where other people noticed when something was off. A normal where correction didn't require a meeting. A normal where someone else's kid was still everyone's concern. Then, somehow, without a vote or a conversation, it faded. Streets grew quieter and more vacant. Garage doors closed. The unspoken agreement that we were loosely responsible for one another dissolved. What replaced it was safer in some ways, maybe cleaner in others, but far lonelier than we expected. Tough love had a purpose. We were raised on a version of it that now gets caricatured. But it wasn't cruelty. It wasn't neglect. It wasn't indifference. It was the assumption that the world wouldn't bend to us, so we had to learn how to stand. If you fell, you got up. When you failed, you adjusted. You learned, often the hard way, that discomfort wasn't a crisis. You were expected to cope, not because adults didn't care, but because they did. They understood something we absorbed without language. Resilience isn't taught through protection alone. It's formed through exposure, friction, and recovery. Somewhere along the way, we began to conflate safety with preparation. We told ourselves that protecting our kids from discomfort was the same thing as preparing them for life. It wasn't. Comfort delayed became fragility. Intervention replaced judgment. Support quietly turned into substitution. Many of us felt the shift, but struggled to properly define or name it. The part we rarely say out loud. We didn't just witness the change, we participated in it. We accepted institutions stepping into roles families once held. We accepted schools absorbing responsibilities parents quietly relinquished. We accepted experts replacing elders. We accepted systems replacing judgment. It wasn't because we wanted to abdicate responsibility. We were tired, busy, squeezed, and simply trying to survive. Gen X didn't have the luxury of idealism. We had mortgages, aging parents, jobs that demanded everything and offered very little in return. And so we told ourselves, this is just how it is now. At least they'll be safe. At least they won't struggle like we did. Those sentences did a lot of quiet work. They soothed self-doubt. They justified trade-offs. They allowed drift to masquerade as progress. And yet, after all these years, something still feels off. The quiet question beneath all of this. Here's a private thought many of us won't quite finish saying. How did a generation raised to be resilient become so afraid of letting resilience form? Not intellectually, but emotionally. Afraid of being seen as harsh, afraid of being blamed, afraid of being judged by standards that didn't exist when we were young. And so we compensated, smoothed edges, intervened early, absorbed consequences that weren't even ours. In compensating, we may have overcorrected. What we lost wasn't our innate toughness, it was confidence. Confidence that discomfort could be survived, and meaning forged on the other side of it. This is not an indictment, it's an acknowledgement. Gen X didn't fail. We adapted quietly, compliantly, effectively. We became the load-bearing generation. We held families together. We translated between values. We absorbed contradictions without ceremony. We bridged analog childhoods and digital adulthood. We navigated institutions in decline while raising kids inside systems still pretending to function. Today, many of us carry an unspoken tension. We know something sacred was lost, but we're unsure how to name it, recover it, or carry forward what still matters without sounding backward, bitter, or out of step. So we stay quiet. Why say this now? Because silence comes with a cost. Unspoken thoughts become resentment. Resentment becomes confusion. Confusion becomes overcorrection or withdrawal. And Gen X has already done enough quiet carrying. This isn't about nostalgia, it's reckoning. What do we believe about responsibility, about community, about adulthood, about authority, about care? Which of those beliefs are worth reclaiming deliberately, instead of letting them erode by accident? A beginning, not a conclusion. This essay isn't meant to resolve anything. It's meant to surface something we've been privately thinking for years and see whether it resonates beyond a single voice. If it does, I'm continuing this line of thinking, documenting the unspoken thoughts Gen X has carried quietly, one at a time without spectacle or slogans. If you'd like to stay close to that work, you're welcome to join me. I hope you will. No hype, no generational warfare, just careful thinking shared deliberately. Because not all conversations need to go viral. They just need a place to flow, like they once did, when no one hovered and we trusted what came from the garden hose on the side of a neighbor's house.